Thank you again for joining us in this study of the Good News in 7 Ones. Lesson 9 is the One Faith teaching about giving. Does God command that we give 10% of our income today? Is there an appointed time to give? What type of giver is God pleased with? Are there blessings that are promised to the giver who pleases God? In 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verses 1 and 2, we see the appointed time to give. Paul writes, "Now concerning the collection for the saints, as I have given order to the churches of Galatia, even so do ye. Upon the first day of the week, let every one of you lay by him in store, as God hath prospered him, that there be no gatherings when I come." The appropriate time to give is on the first day of the week. This is the day that they gathered for worship, and it's one of the 5 acts of worship: preaching or teaching, praying, singing, partaking of the Lord's Supper, and giving. In Leviticus chapter 27, starting in verse 30, where we see the command of tithing, and tithing was a commandment in the Old Testament, and we want to answer the question, is it also a commandment in the New Testament? Leviticus 27, verse 30. "And all the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, is the Lord's. It is holy unto the Lord. And if any man will at all redeem aught of his tithes, he shall add thereto a 5th part thereof. And concerning the tithe of the herd or of the flock, even of whatsoever passeth under the rod, the 10th shall be holy unto the Lord. He shall not search whether it be good or bad, neither shall he change it. And if he change it at all, then both it and the change thereof shall be holy. It shall not be redeemed. These are the commandments which the Lord commanded Moses for the children of Israel in Mount Sinai." And so they were to give a 10th part of all to the Lord. Now remember, when they made it into the Canaan land, that there was allotments of land given to all the tribes except for one tribe, and that was the tribe of Levi. The tribe of Levi did not get an allotment of land to work on to raise themselves an income. They did the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, so they were scattered out among the other tribes. And we see here that from the tithing of the other tribes, the Levites would get their living. Numbers chapter 18, verse 21. "Behold, I have given the children of Levi all the 10th in Israel for an inheritance, for their services which they serve, even the service of the tabernacle of the congregation. Neither must the children of Israel henceforth come nigh to the tabernacle of the congregation, lest they bear sin and die. But the Levites shall do the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they shall hear their iniquity. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, that among the children of Israel they have no inheritance. But the tithes of the children of Israel, which they offer as an heave offering unto the Lord, I have given to the Levites to inherit. Therefore I've said unto them, among the children of Israel they shall have no inheritance. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Thus speak unto the Levites, and say unto them, When ye take of the children of Israel the tithes which I have given from them for your inheritance, then ye shall offer up an heave offering of it for the Lord, even a 10th part of the tithe." So the Levites' living was from the tithing of the other tribes. But when they received that 10th, they were to take a 10th of the tithe and offer it up for the Lord, which meant they could live off of the remaining 90%. In the New Testament, we don't have specific numbers in our giving like 10%, but we still see that those who preach the gospel are ordained to live off of the gospel, just like the Levites could live off the tithes of the people. In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, starting in verse 11, it says, "If we have sown unto you spiritual things, is it a great thing if we shall reap your carnal things? If others be partakers of this power over you, are not we rather? Nevertheless, we have not used this power, but suffer all things lest we should hinder the gospel of God." Paul says we could have taken funds from you for preaching, but we chose not to. He was afraid that it would affect their faith. Do you not know that they which minister about the holy things live off the things of the temple, and they which wait at the altar are partakers with the altar? Even so hath the Lord ordained that they which preach the gospel should live of the gospel. But I have used none of those things, neither have I written these things, that it should be done unto me, for it would be better for me to die than any man should make my glorying void. For though I preach the gospel, I have nothing to glory of, for necessity is laid upon me, yea, woe unto me if I preach not the gospel. For I do this thing willingly. If I do it willingly, I have a reward. But if against my will, a dispensation of the gospel is committed unto me. So just like the Levites would live off of the tithing of the other tribes, it is ordained that those who preach the gospel can live off of the giving of the others who benefit from the gospel. Notice in Ephesians chapter 4 the way that we should receive income that we can use to give. He says in verse 28, let him that stole steal no more, rather let him labor working with his hands the thing which is good, that he may give to him that needeth. Our giving comes from good labor of our hands, good, honest, hard work, good, honest gain. Verse 29, let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good, to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. In Malachi chapter 3, we have an example of those who are not giving as they should have. It's a bad example. Verse 6, Malachi 3, for I am the Lord, I change not. Therefore the sons of Jacob are not consumed. Even from the days of your fathers, you are gone away from mine ordinances, and have not kept them. Return unto me, and I will return unto you, saith the Lord of hosts. But ye said, wherein shall we return? Will a man rob God? Ye have robbed me. But ye say, wherein have we robbed you? In tithes and offerings? Ye are cursed with a curse, for ye have robbed me, even this whole nation. And so they hadn't served the Lord with their whole heart. Maybe they had given, but their heart wasn't in it, and God knew that. Let's read 2 Corinthians chapter 8, starting in verse 1. Moreover, brethren, we do you to wit of the grace of God bestowed upon the churches of Macedonia. Now this is a good example of giving. How that with a great trial of affliction, the abundance of their joy and their deep poverty abounded unto the riches of their liberality. It didn't say what percentage they gave. It just said even in their poverty, they willingly gave liberally. And that was to their credit. For to their power I bear record, yea, and beyond their power they were willing of themselves, praying us with much entreaty that we should receive the gift and take upon us the fellowship of the ministry of the saints. And this they did, not as we hoped, but first gave their own selves to the Lord and unto us by the will of God. So they gave their self in service to the Lord. They gave of their means, even in their poverty. They gave liberally. And so their gift was a willing gift. In 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verses 5 through 9, we see some blessings to those who give, and we also see the purpose of our giving. Again, no mention of a percentage or a demand for a certain amount is given, but it's the way that we give. In 2 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 5, therefore I thought it necessary to exhort the brethren that they would go before unto you and make up beforehand your bounty, whereof we had noticed before, that the same might be ready as a manner of bounty and not of covetousness. But this I say, he which soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly, and he which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully. Look at verse 7. Every man according as he has purposed in his heart, so let him give, not grudgingly or of necessity, for God loveth a cheerful giver. And God is able to make all grace abound toward us, that ye always having all sufficiency in all things may abound to every good work. Notice that it's God that supplies the grace that we need to do every good work that He wants us to do. And so knowing that God has provided, we're just giving back what God has provided so that the work that He wants done can get done. We give willingly, not grudgingly. God loves a cheerful giver. Verse 9, as it is written, He hath dispersed abroad, He hath given to the poor, His righteousness remaineth forever. In 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 16, we see that our giving is not just what we do to lay by and store on the first day of the week, but we're to give of ourselves in our lives and to support those who are our relatives. In 1 Timothy 5:16, if any man or woman that believeth have widows, let them relieve them, and let not the church be charged, that it may relieve them that are widows indeed. And then again, the time that is set aside for the collection of the saints is the first day of the week, when the disciples had come together to partake of the Lord's Supper, and we have the 5 acts of worship. In 1 Corinthians 16, 1 and 2, now concerning the collection for the saints, as I've given order to the churches of Galatia, even so do ye. Upon the first day of the week let every one of you lay by him in store, as God hath prospered him, that there be no gatherings when I come. In the Old Testament, God commanded that the people give 10% of their income. Today, God commands that we lay by and store as we have been prospered, and to give willingly on the first day of the week. It is a willing gift from the heart. It comes with the knowledge, not the demand or expectation, that blessings will come again to the cheerful giver. In other words, we're giving to God willingly. We're not saying, God, I'm going to give you this, now you have to give me that. We give to God willingly. God gives to us willingly. Knowing that we are under a better covenant where grace and mercy prevail, we should willingly give back to God, who has given us all spiritual blessings in heavenly places in Christ Jesus. Ephesians chapter 1, verse 3. Thank you again for joining us in this study. Our next lesson, lesson 10, will be the one-faced teaching about the Lord's Supper.